What if the voice inside your head is not really you? That constant narrator, the one who worries at 3 a.m., replays old conversations, and predicts tomorrow's disasters, feels like you. It uses your name. It speaks as I. But what if you have been listening to a stranger your entire life? Today, we explore a teaching the Buddha shared 2,500 years ago. A truth that has brought peace to countless restless minds. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes them. This simple shift has helped people finally sleep after years of racing minds. It has freed hearts trapped in endless worry. Perhaps tonight, it will do the same for you. Take a slow breath. And let us begin. Part 1. The ancient Buddhist parable of the monkey mind and the still water. 2,500 years ago, in a quiet forest monastery nestled in the hills of northern India, a young monk named Ananda approached the Buddha with troubled eyes. Ananda was one of the Buddha's closest disciples. He had devoted his life to the path of awakening. He had memorized countless teachings. He had practiced meditation for years. And yet, peace eluded him. "Blessed One," Ananda said, his voice heavy with exhaustion, "I cannot sleep. Every night, I lie down on my mat, close my eyes, and my mind begins to race. It replays conversations I had years ago. It imagines conversations that may never happen. It criticizes me for my failures. It warns me of dangers that do not exist." Ananda paused, his hands trembling slightly. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. "I have tried everything: prayer, discipline, fasting, walking meditation late into the night, and still, the thoughts will not stop. They chase each other like wild monkeys swinging from branch to branch." He looked down at the ground, shame coloring his cheeks. "I am beginning to believe," he whispered, "that something is fundamentally wrong with me. That I am not capable of the peace you speak of." The Buddha listened in complete silence. His eyes held no judgment, only deep compassion. Then, without speaking, he rose and walked toward a nearby stream where a wooden bucket sat upon a flat stone. "Come," the Buddha said gently. Ananda followed, curious but weary. The Buddha lifted the bucket and waded into the stream. But the water had been disturbed by a passing deer moments before, and it was cloudy with mud and silt. He filled the bucket with this murky water and carried it back to the stone. "Ananda," the Buddha asked, "can you see your reflection in this water?" Ananda peered into the bucket. The water was brown and opaque, swirling with countless particles of dirt. He shook his head slowly. "No, Blessed One. The water is too disturbed. I cannot see anything clearly." The Buddha nodded. He set the bucket down carefully on the stone and folded his hands in his lap. "Now," he said, "we wait." They sat together in silence. 1 minute passed. Then another. Ananda grew restless. His mind urged him to do something, to stir the water, to filter it, to pour it out and start again. But the Buddha sat perfectly still, watching the bucket with patient eyes. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the mud began to settle. The tiny particles of silt drifted downward, pulled by gravity toward the bottom of the bucket. The water grew clearer, and clearer, and clearer still. Until finally, Ananda could see his own face reflected perfectly upon the still surface. He gasped softly. "Ananda," the Buddha said, his voice warm as morning sunlight, your mind is like this water. When you stir it with effort, when you try to force the thoughts away, when you fight them with frustration, when you believe they are you, the mud remains suspended. The water stays cloudy. You cannot see clearly. He paused, letting the words settle like the silt. But when you simply stop, when you observe without grasping, without pushing, without identifying, the mud settles on its own. Clarity returns. Peace returns. Not because you did something, but because you stopped doing. Ananda stared at the still water, his mind slowly opening to this new understanding. The thoughts, he said slowly, testing the idea, they are not me. The Buddha smiled, a smile filled with infinite tenderness. The thoughts are like the mud. They arise from conditions. They swirl for a time. They settle. They pass away. But you, the awareness that watches the water, you remain unchanged. You are not the mud. You are not the turbulence. You are the vast, still awareness that witnesses it all. That night, Ananda returned to his mat and lay down. The thoughts came, as they always did. The same worries. The same regrets. The same fears about tomorrow. But this time, Ananda did not fight them. He simply watched. And for the first time in many months, he slept peacefully through the night. Not because his thoughts stopped, but because he stopped believing they were him. Part 2, a modern story, when thoughts keep us awake at night. Let us step forward across the centuries, to a quiet suburban home in Ohio, in the present day. It is 2:47 in the morning. Margaret, 73 years old, lies in her bed, staring at the ceiling. The house is silent. Her husband passed away 2 years ago, and the emptiness of the room seems to amplify every thought. Her body is tired. Her bones ache with the familiar weariness of age. Her eyes are heavy. But her mind is running a marathon with no finish line. Did I say the wrong thing to Susan at dinner? She seemed upset when she left. Maybe she's angry with me. I should have kept my opinions to myself. I should call her tomorrow and apologize. But what if that makes it worse? What if she doesn't want to talk to me? What if I've damaged the relationship forever? The thoughts spiral, each one giving birth to another. And the doctor's appointment is next week. What if they find something? The pain in my shoulder has been there for months now. What if it's serious? What if I waited too long? Why didn't I go sooner? I've always been careless about these things. Margaret turns over, pressing her face into the pillow, trying to escape her own mind. I need to sleep. I have to sleep. Why can't I just turn off my brain like a normal person? What's wrong with me? The more she fights the thoughts, the louder they become. It is as if her resistance gives them strength. She tries counting sheep. She loses count at 47 and starts worrying about her memory. She tries breathing slowly. But her mind comments on the breathing, critiques her technique, and wonders if she's doing it correctly. She tries forcing her mind to go blank. But the effort itself creates more thoughts. The voice in her head, the one that sounds so much like her, the one that uses the word I so convincingly, the one that has been speaking for 73 years, continues its relentless commentary. And Margaret believes every word. She believes the worry is justified. She believes the fear is real. She believes that if she just thinks hard enough, She can solve the problem, fix the future, prevent the disaster, and finally, find peace. But here is the truth the Buddha understood so deeply, 25 centuries ago. The mind that promises peace through thinking is the same mind that creates the restlessness. It is like asking the fire to put itself out by burning more intensely. Margaret does not know this yet, but she is about to learn. If this message is bringing you comfort today, I warmly invite you to subscribe to Buddha Coha and join our gentle community of seekers. Here, we explore ancient wisdom for modern peace, one breath, one moment, one teaching at a time. Part 3, The Observer and the Observed, Understanding Who You Really Are. Let us pause here and explore the first teaching more deeply. Buddhism offers a radical insight that challenges everything we assume about ourselves. The voice in your head is not you. Read that again. Let it settle. The constant narrator, the one who comments on your life, judges your actions, predicts disasters, and rehearses the past, this voice feels like you. It uses your name. It speaks in the first person. It knows your memories, your fears, your secret hopes, and hidden shames. And yet, it is not you. How do we know this? Because you can observe it. Consider this deeply. If you can listen to the voice, if you can notice when it is anxious, when it is critical, when it is racing with worry, then there must be something separate from the voice. There must be an awareness that witnesses the thinking without being the thinking itself. This awareness is what Buddhism calls your true nature. Some traditions call it Buddha nature. Others call it pure consciousness. The name matters less than the recognition. The thoughts come and go like clouds. The emotions rise and fall like waves. The body changes with each passing year, cells dying and being born, hair turning silver, skin softening with time. But the awareness, the silent observer who has been present through every experience of your life, remains constant. The Buddha described it with beautiful simplicity. You are the sky. Everything else, thoughts, emotions, sensations, is just the weather. Consider this metaphor carefully. The weather changes constantly. Storms pass through, violent and loud. Clouds gather, dark and heavy, blocking the sun. Rain falls. Wind howls. Lightning flashes. But the sky itself is never damaged. The sky does not become the storm. It does not shrink when clouds appear. It does not suffer when thunder roars. It simply holds space, infinite, open, unchanging, for the weather to move through. You, dear friend, are the sky. And the racing thoughts that keep you awake at night, they are just weather. Passing weather. They will come, and they will go, if you let them. The moment you stop identifying with the thoughts, the moment you stop believing they are you, something miraculous happens. They lose their power. They become like sounds in the distance, still present, perhaps, but no longer urgent. No longer demanding. No longer in control. You can lie in bed and watch the thoughts arise, and watch them dissolve, without needing to follow them, fix them, argue with them, or fight them. This is the beginning of true peace. Part 4, Craving, the Hidden Engine of Sleeplessness. Now, let us explore the second teaching. Why does the mind race at night? Why, when the body is exhausted and the world is finally quiet, does the mind refuse to rest? The Buddha's answer was both simple and profound: craving. Craving is the desire for things to be different from what they are. It is the silent engine that drives the restless mind. When you lie awake worrying about tomorrow, you are craving certainty in an uncertain world. When you replay a painful conversation from last week, or last decade, you are craving a different outcome. An outcome that exists only in imagination, because the past is already gone. When you plan and strategize and mentally rehearse future scenarios, you are craving control over events that have not yet happened and may never happen. And here is the most cunning trick of the restless mind: craving disguises itself as productivity. It pretends to be helpful. It whispers seductively, "If you just think about this a little more, you'll figure it out. You'll solve it. You'll finally feel better." It insists with false urgency, "You need to work this out before you can rest. This is important. This matters." It promises with honeyed words, "Peace is waiting on the other side of this thought. Just one more minute of worrying, and then you can relax." But the promise is always a lie. Because no amount of thinking will satisfy the craving. The craving is not actually asking for a solution. It is asking for absolute certainty, and absolute certainty does not exist in this ever-changing, impermanent world. So the mind keeps spinning, and spinning, and spinning, searching desperately for something it can never, ever find. The Buddha taught with quiet authority, peace comes not from satisfying craving, but from releasing it. Release does not mean suppression. It does not mean pretending you don't want peace, don't want certainty, don't want the pain to stop. It means recognizing the craving for what it truly is: a mental habit, a conditioned pattern, a wave that rises and falls in the ocean of mind. It means lying in bed and noticing with gentle awareness, "Ah, there is craving." The mind wants certainty. The mind wants control. The mind believes it can think its way to safety. And then, softly, without force, returning attention to the breath. Not fixing anything. Not forcing anything. Just returning. Again and again and again. Part 5, Margaret's Awakening, the night everything changed. Let us return to Margaret. She is still lying in bed. The clock now reads 3:15 in the morning. But something is different tonight. Earlier that day, Margaret had visited her local library, something she hadn't done in months. She wandered the aisles without purpose, her fingers trailing along the spines of books. Her hand stopped on a slim volume about Buddhist meditation. The cover was simple, peaceful. She wasn't sure why she picked it up, perhaps simple curiosity, perhaps quiet desperation, perhaps something deeper that she couldn't name. In the book, she had read a single sentence that now echoed in her sleepless mind: "You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes them." The words had seemed almost too simple when she first read them. But now, lying in the darkness at 3:15 in the morning, with her mind still churning, she decided to try something new. Instead of fighting the thoughts, she watched them. "There is a thought about Susan," she noticed silently, as if she were a scientist observing an experiment. "It is saying she might be angry with me. It is predicting disaster." She did not argue with the thought. She did not try to prove it wrong. She did not solve the problem it presented. She simply observed it, as if watching a cloud drift slowly across a night sky. The thought lingered for a moment, seeking attention, demanding engagement. And then, without her doing anything, it faded. Another thought arose immediately, rushing to fill the space: the doctor's appointment. What if something is seriously wrong? Margaret noticed a tightness in her chest. Fear. It was physical, a clenching, a constriction, a sense of danger. But instead of getting swept into the story the fear was telling, she paused. There is fear, she observed calmly. It feels tight. It is located in my chest. It wants me to worry. She breathed gently into the tightness, not trying to make it go away, just breathing. And she noticed something remarkable: the fear was changing. Even as she watched, it was shifting, softening at the edges, losing some of its intensity. It was not permanent. It was not solid. It was dissolving, even as she watched, without her doing anything to fix it. Margaret realized, for the first time in 73 years of living, that she did not have to believe every thought that arose in her mind. She did not have to obey the voice. She did not have to follow its commands or accept its predictions as truth. She could simply watch. And in watching, in that simple, radical act of observation, she found the stillness she had been searching for her entire life. At 3:42 in the morning, Margaret fell asleep. Not because her problems were solved. Susan might still be upset. The doctor might still find something. Not because her fears were gone. They would return, as fears always do. But because she had stopped fighting the water, and allowed the mud to settle on its own. Part 6: Impermanence, the key to letting go. There is one more teaching we must explore together today. It is perhaps the most powerful psychological tool Buddhism offers for finding peace: impermanence. Everything changes. Everything passes. Nothing remains the same from one moment to the next. This is not a philosophical idea to debate. It is a simple, observable truth that you can verify right now, in this very moment. The breath you are taking right now, it will end. Already, it is ending. A new breath will begin, different from the last. The thought you had 5 seconds ago, it has already dissolved into nothing. A new thought has taken its place. Where did the old thought go? Can you find it? The emotion you felt this morning, where is it now? Can you locate it in your body? Or has it vanished like morning mist? Everything is in motion. Everything is flowing. Everything is arising and passing away, moment by moment, without pause. When we forget this truth, we suffer. We believe the pain will last forever. We believe the fear will never end. We believe the sleepless night stretches into eternity, that we will never know peace again. And so we panic. We fight desperately. We grasp at peace as if it were a solid object we could catch and hold forever. But when we remember impermanence, when we truly see it, not just intellectually but in our bones and blood, something profound happens. Something relaxes. The nervous system softens. The muscles unclench. The jaw releases. The breath deepens naturally. Because we realize, with liberating clarity, this too shall pass. Not as a cliché. Not as a greeting card platitude. But as a lived, embodied, undeniable truth. The Buddha spoke these words with great compassion: all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. Lying in bed tonight, you can apply this teaching directly. When a fearful thought arises, you can ask gently, is this thought permanent? Or is it already changing, even as I watch? Look closely. Observe. You will see, it is always changing. When an uncomfortable sensation appears in your body, tension, restlessness, the racing of your heart, you can observe with curiosity, is this sensation solid and fixed? Or is it shifting, pulsing, moving? Look closely. You will see, it is always in flux. Nothing needs to be forced out. Nothing needs to be fixed. Because everything is already dissolving on its own. The only question is, will you trust this natural process? Will you let go of the exhausting need to control? Will you allow life to flow through you, rather than trying to dam the river with your bare hands? Dear friend, if these teachings are speaking to your heart today, I warmly invite you to subscribe to Buddha Coha and share this video with someone who might need these words. Together, we walk the ancient path toward peace, one mindful breath at a time. Part 7, The Three Truths for Restful Sleep. Let us gather what we have learned today into 3 simple truths you can carry with you. First, you are not your thoughts. The voice that narrates your life, the one that worries endlessly, judges harshly, and plans obsessively, is not you. It never was. You are the awareness that watches the voice, the vast sky that holds all weather without being damaged by any storm. When you stop identifying with thoughts, when you stop believing they define you, they lose their power over you. They become like distant sounds, present, perhaps, but no longer controlling. Second, craving is the root of restlessness. The mind promises that peace lies on the other side of just one more thought, one more solution, one more moment of worry. But this is the oldest trick in the book. True peace comes not from satisfying craving, but from releasing its grip. Notice when your mind demands certainty, control, or resolution. Recognize the craving for what it is. And gently, with compassion for yourself, return to the simple anchor of your breath. Third, everything is impermanent. The thoughts that seem so urgent right now will fade. The fear that feels so solid and real is already shifting, already changing, already passing away. The discomfort you resist with all your might is dissolving even now, even without your effort. Trust the natural flow of all things. You do not need to force anything out of your mind. Simply observe with patience, and allow. Part 8, Words of Wisdom from the Buddha. Let these ancient words settle into your heart tonight like soft rain upon dry earth, bringing life to seeds long dormant. In the end, only 3 things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. Nothing can harm you as much as your own thoughts unguarded. Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. And finally, this gentle reminder that has brought comfort to countless hearts across the centuries: you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Dear friend, as we come to the end of our time together, I want to leave you with this blessing. You have spent so many nights battling your own mind. You have tried so hard to silence the voice, to solve the unsolvable problems, to think your way to peace through sheer force of will. Tonight, you can finally rest. Not because you have fixed everything. Not because your problems have disappeared. Not because the thoughts have magically stopped. But because you have remembered who you truly are. You are not the mud swirling in the water. You are the stillness that allows the mud to settle. You are not the storm raging in the night. You are the vast sky that holds the storm with infinite patience. You are not the craving that demands and grasps. You are the awareness that watches craving rise, and fall, and dissolve into nothing. You are already whole. You are already complete. You are already at peace. You have simply forgotten for a little while. And tonight, in the sacred quiet of this moment, you are remembering. So close your eyes now, dear friend. Let your breath grow soft and slow. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let your jaw unclench. And let the thoughts pass through you like clouds passing through the endless, open, ever-present sky. You do not need to follow them. You do not need to fix them. You do not need to become them. You can simply watch. And in that watching, you will find what you have always been searching for, the stillness that was never lost. The peace that was here all along. The home you never left. Thank you for spending this sacred time with Buddha Coha. If this teaching has brought comfort to your heart today, please subscribe to our channel and share this message with someone who needs peace. Together, we walk the ancient path, one mindful breath, one gentle moment, one awakening step at a time. May you sleep deeply tonight. May you wake gently tomorrow. May you carry this peace with you into every moment of your precious life. Good night, dear friend. Namo Buddhaya.